Hello, and welcome back to the Girl Power Alliance podcast. I'm so excited to share this beautiful woman with you today. Let me tell you a little bit about Gemma. She is a PhD. She is a well regarded speaker and leadership coach who is deeply passionate and committed to the personal growth, well being, and progression of people. It's my kind of girl. With a vision of a world where every person embraces their boundless potential, she is on a mission to inspire people to do what inspires them. So together, we make the world better. Gemma is the founder and CEO of Everlead, a leadership coaching and consulting group. Welcome, Gemma.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Michelle.
I am too, and you're like speaking my language. I mean, as we record this, I am knee deep in writing the content for the leadership course that I'm working on. And so what you do is near and dear to my heart. I know I read your bio, but I know people want to know just like a little bit more about you.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, what can I include? Well, I always consider myself in three words. I'm an inspirer, an educator, and a coach. So, when I conducted my own little informal survey with my friends and family, and I asked them if you had to describe me using a few words, what would you say? And if not all of them, most of them said inspiring. And so that was the overarching theme. And so I went along with that in describing myself as such, being that that's how other people see me. And I see myself as that in that way as well, because my heart's desire is to inspire folks to do work that lights their own fires, right? To do God's work and to do what they're on earth to do what they're on earth because they were called by God to do that work. So that's what lights me up. I feel that that's my life's work, and that's what I'm here for.
First of all, you have a very sexy radio voice. So if you're
Oh
listening to this
boy.
on the podcast, you're just like your ear is getting tickled. You have such a good, I mean, I just want to close my eyes and listen. You have such a good voice. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you get to see and hear her. So you get to see her beauty and then hear that like sexy voice. Has
Well,
anybody ever
thank
told
you,
you that
Michelle.
before?
I was just about to tell you that no one has ever said that to me. So that's wonderful feedback that I will run with.
I feel like maybe I'm picky about it because I've been podcasting for so long, and so like I love. I mean, if you if you have a podcast, you're usually like a podcast person, so you listen to them. And
Right.
you hear about these great podcasts, so I download them and I listen to them. And there are some people who have voices. No matter how great the podcast is, I can't listen to.
Mm.
But your voice is the kind I could listen to for hours. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. And I'm enjoying speaking with you because I love your energy and your smile. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I'm enjoying this. Thank you.
Well, how did you even get into like leadership coaching? Where did that evolve from? Have you always done that?
It's so funny. I tell stories all the time, so uh, uh, engage me with this. I remember being like 7 years old, and my mom walked into a room, and I used that opportunity to just ask her so many questions, right? Like, how does this work? Why is there light? Why is there every like I was just asking her questions about so many things, and she just stopped in her tracks and just took a sigh and looked down at me and was like, Ajama, you ask so many questions. You should become a lawyer when you grow up. And I remember her saying that, and it just stayed with me. And, I found interest recently in the past couple of years. I found interest in studying leadership coaching. And I've learned that leadership coaching is essentially about having the power of asking powerful questions, right? And I see that I still utilize this probing and inquisitive nature of myself in this line of work. Something my mom named when I was younger, and I didn't understand what she was talking about. I was just curious, and so I'm utilizing my curiosity as a leadership coach. So in coaching, we're trained to sit with a client and be curious about their lived experiences. And through our curiosity, we ask them these powerful, open ended questions to get them to a greater sense of awareness and understanding about their own experience, their own goals, so on and so forth. So um, I would say that becoming a coach has always been in me. It's just a matter of me discovering that and realizing that that's where I belong. I already care about the personal growth and development of people in general, and so helping them through coaching to get to a place of being unstuck and achieving their goals and all of that is something that really gets me excited and energized.
Isn't it though? And it's such an
Yeah,
interesting topic, specifically like leadership, because I always say this, there's been more books written about leadership than any other topic in the world, and yet we are so lacking. Like we're
yeah.
so lacking in true leadership.
I agree. I agree. There's certainly a leadership crisis in our nation. And you're right. There's so many books, but then why is it that it's such a challenge? Why aren't we more principled in our ways of being and guiding and leading?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. I don't
So
even think it's
that's
just
yeah,
our country. I think it's the world.
absolutely. I agree with that. Hmm.
And so what you're doing is holy work.
Yeah.
This is holy work. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally like writing content. So I'm going to basically say these things that I just wrote. I believe
Hmm.
this is like an Esther moment in the world for women,
Hmm.
for women to rise up. And
Hmm.
I'm sure do you coach men and women?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
specifically feel it is a very powerful time specifically for women because
Hmm.
this is an interesting thing and I would love to hear your feedback.
Hmm.
So, like, I've taken leadership courses, I've read
Hmm.
dozens of leadership books, there's online summits. There was just one recently in the summer called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was done by somebody that's considered in the world of leadership like a guru. And
Hmm.
almost every one of them is the majority men. If
Mm.
they have any women at all, it's usually limited to one. And
Uh-huh.
so I find it very interesting that as a society, up until now, and I'm saying that because I believe it's shifting, that
Mhm.
we have accepted the fact that real leadership comes solely from men.
Mm. Yes, very problematic. And that's not the case.
It's
Um,
not.
yeah, and when you look at different world leaders or leaders of their own particular nation that have thriving societies, you'll find that they're women
Women,
led. Not to say that men aren't capable, but
not
we
at
have to
all.
start placing a magnifying glass on or highlighting the successes of women leaders and what they've been able to achieve. So um, yeah, oftentimes when you do study leadership, it's often the men who are more reputable or
Oh,
who are
yeah.
more celebrated, right? But there's so many women doing the work, and I'd
Oh
love
my
to see
gosh.
that dramatic shift in paying more attention to the voices of women. Absolutely.
You and me both. And it's interesting to me because I feel that not all, obviously. I mean, everything we're saying, nothing is a blanket statement because there's always the exceptions to kind of the generalities. But I feel that for most women, they just accepted it. Matter of fact, I had the most interesting conversation with somebody the other day, and we were just talking about, I don't know, she used to go to my church,
Hmm.
and she was telling me the reasons that she left not only our church but like three others, and it was because they had women get up on the stage and preach.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't have to go into that subject, but I believe again that this is something that the enemy has done to
Hmm.
stop women from having the influence that women just innately have.
Hmm.
And that was a woman telling
Hmm.
me that
Hmm.
women have no
Hmm.
place
Hmm.
preaching.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like this idea I refer to it as internalized oppression. Like you're oppressing yourself, you're believing these false narratives about what women should be doing in leadership positions, and you've accepted it for yourself. And even as a woman who should be empowering yourself, you're allowing yourself to be oppressed by these internalized thoughts that you have about who you ought to be and what other women ought to be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we've got to
interesting,
break
isn't it?
that. We've got to break.
I went home. We weren't home, but I went home and I looked up the verse where I don't think it's Jesus saying it. I think it's Paul, but he's saying that, now because of the death of Christ on the cross, there is no slave or Jew or male or female. We are one.
Right.
And so we as women have the exact same authority to go
Right.
out and preach the gospel as any man. We have the authority to lead any
Mhm.
business. We have the
Mhm.
authority given to us by God to go out and lead. And in many cases, I believe women do it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not a feminist, like I'm not a feminist, but this is just something that I find very, very interesting in the topic specifically. I know we kind of are going like off on a
No,
rabbit
it's
trail,
okay. Let's do it.
it just was something that was on my mind today because of that conversation that I had last week and thinking like it's interesting to me how listen, I'm like I if I would have had a different life, I would have been completely content to only have been a stay-at-home mom and raise my family. That is the first place that leadership matters.
Yeah.
Like that's the most important leadership role. If you're listening to this and you're thinking that we're only speaking about like women in
Mhm.
the world or government or in business,
Mhm.
we are not. Because
Right.
you in the home moms, this is
Mhm.
the number one most important, most impactful place in the world that you can lead.
Absolutely. Parenting is the hardest leadership role in my
Ooh.
opinion. It is the hardest. It takes a lot of self-control and patience and all of that to really shape your children. And if I know you're talking about different aspects of the home, but for me, I'm talking about children in this example. Really shape your children, it's not the easiest task, um, but it is our responsibility. And it is not an easy leadership role.
And by the way, you don't get like days off.
Oh gosh. Let's not even talk about that. No days off, people.
How many
No.
kids do you have?
I have 3.
Yeah. Okay. So what are their ages?
I have a 2-year-old. I see, I'm terrible with ages. A 2-year-old, 8-year-old, I almost said 7, and a 9-year-old.
You're right
Mhm.
in it then. You are right in
Mhm.
the bit like you're in the busy time. You got more than 10 years of like legit busy 24/7.
I know.
And are your kids doing at home learning right now?
They are, and it's the most excruciating thing I've ever had to deal with. It's so painful, it's so hard,
It's really
as
hard.
a busy professional, my husband and I are constantly trying to figure out how are we gonna teach these children? We don't even have time for ourselves, let alone try to homeschool and get them on Zoom, and, they're not that computer, uh,
No.
tech savvy, if you will, to navigate all of those systems by themselves. You're like a million logins,
Oh,
and so being patient and teaching them how to do all of that is it's an experience to say the least.
it really
Yeah,
is. And I just want to applaud you and all
thank
of you that
you.
are listening that are doing
Mhm.
all the things you did before and now you're trying to navigate this kind of learning from home thing.
Yeah,
It is a lot, and I'm just bathing it all in prayer for all of you and for the kids because it's a new day. But literally, back to the subject of leadership, like this is
absolutely.
taking you to the brink of everything you have ever learned or taught every client you've ever had, like daily.
Right. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah.
What an incredible amount of tools this is going to add to your
Yes,
toolbox.
yes. Great resilience as well. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty interesting.
Mhm.
The whole thing about leadership to me is it's a very interesting thing. I have like a whole bunch of books that I'm reading
Yeah.
specifically about biblical leadership, and there's so
Mhm.
many different frames of thought. I believe the crisis in general is
Mhm.
because they're trying to teach leadership and they're not trying to change the heart through
Ooh,
Christ.
yes. Yeah, that's the foundation, that's where it starts. I always um, the way I understand leadership, I have a shirt that I made. It says Jesus, leadership, and love. And
Mm,
to me, those 3 words are synonymous.
yeah.
To know Jesus is to know what a real leader looks like.
Yep.
Love, or to be a great leader is to show love in the right ways, right? Jesus is love. Like you could go on and on in pairing those 3 words, and to me, that's what I think of when I think of leadership, or even how Jesus was, how Christ was. Yeah, just wanted to throw that in.
So in your practice, are
Mhm.
is that kind of the framework for how you're coaching people?
Mhm. And my coaching is kind of universal, just broad based. I haven't had a lot of clients coming to me to focus more on the spiritual lens. I am connected with my church to offer my coaching to young folks who are seeking coaching instead of counseling, because I think these days more people are seeking to be coached versus counseled. That's what I'm
I'd say that's
hearing.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the younger group, younger generation. So I am open to that. And if my clients want to engage in that aspect of their identity, I am more than happy and willing. I wish they actually would do it more than willing to engage in that regard. Um, I don't want to not answer the question that you had originally asked me,
Hey,
but
we're rabbit trailing. It's fine.
yeah, okay. Yeah.
uh, I just, in my conversations with people, it's like you're having this one conversation and you're going
Hmm.
wherever you're going, whatever it is that the topic was that you were talking about with your client. And sometimes a door opens because maybe a question that you're asking or a question that they're asking or how they respond. And then the topic comes up like of faith or spirituality or where your belief system is. And I
Hmm.
will tell you that it's interesting because once you open that door and if you share the same beliefs, like here we're talking about loving
Mm.
Jesus, it
Hmm.
opens up to a whole new conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying you sometimes you initiate that, you say something about faith, and then it kind of gives them space to open up in that regard as well.
I
You
do,
find
and
that to be the case?
I do, and I will tell you, I didn't for the bulk of my career because
Okay.
what are we taught? We don't talk about politics or religion. That's just in business.
Right.
That's not what you do. But
Right.
as God has had me on this journey, and it started with
Hmm.
my first podcast called The Sold Out Entrepreneur, where I was just talking about everything through the lens of faith. And then now with Girl Power Alliance, it's like now I can't not. And so to have these conversations, what I have found is because it's just part of how I speak now. And so when it opens that door and you find that you have that commonality, the conversation changes and it's a really interesting, it's
Hmm.
very, it's very telling to
Hmm.
watch the conversation that was going in a direction and then you unlock
Wow.
this door and it's like all the boundaries come off and now you're able to go into this whole deeper
Exactly.
thing. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
And that's where you want them to be
Yeah.
able to be open and explorative in that way. That's awesome that conversations about faith could help you achieve that, to be open.
Well,
That's wonderful.
I think that
Hmm.
people like you that
Hmm.
are literally you're devoting your life
Yeah.
to helping other people to learn about themselves, learn about what their purpose is. I mean, I believe it's such important and holy work because just if you just go out today, well, maybe not today because there's not as many people out as there used to be, but in the past when you would just go out and see people out and about, I would
Hmm.
have to say 9 out of 10 of them, they have no idea what they were put on this planet for.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that. Not everyone knows what they're called to do, right? And I often assume that, well, people kind of have an idea. And when I speak with my coaching clients, a lot of them don't have no idea.
Why do you think that is?
I feel that many people are not that in touch with God speaking to their hearts, because I think that God places a purpose inside everyone, and it's a matter of whether or not we're going to answer that call. And maybe people are denying that is anything valid or whatnot, but I think people are not in touch with God, because if you are in touch with God and prayerful and asking him, well, what am I here to do? He will answer you. That I
Mhm.
know for sure. He will certainly answer you, if you're listening, if you're open and listening. But for me, the way I knew about my purpose and my calling um, is because I listened to that persistent but gentle nudging that I kept getting for years. And I describe it as gentle, but it was persistent. And I would describe it as just someone just tapping me on the shoulder. That's how it felt
Mhm.
to me, like constant tapping, tapping, tapping. And it would say leadership, leadership, leadership. And I would just turn like, what does that mean? Like leadership,
What am I
why
supposed to
is
do
that
with that?
word? What am I supposed to do with this elusive term, right? And it was there for years and years, and I knew I was interested in going to leadership conferences and reading leadership books and hearing the talks and all of that and the principles and all of that. And that word just kept showing up. And one day, when I was having this professional identity crisis, as I call it, when I was in this job that I did not like, and I was like, there's got to be more to life here. I am not happy in my work. And then this tapping came back, leadership, leadership. And I was like, you know what? What is that? Let me get a piece of paper and a pen and let me just start writing. What does this mean? And when I started being intentional about exploring it, I felt myself get so energized, and it was
Mm,
like a rebirthing within me, like a fire had been lit. And once I decided to say, okay, what can I do with this leadership idea? Okay, maybe I could start speaking at conferences. Maybe I can start giving little talks on the college campuses. Maybe I could start coaching people. Maybe I could start writing a book on leadership. And I started doing all those things. And then that tapping finally went away. It went away, but the energy and the passion was still there because I had finally answered it.
yes.
And I remember being at Costco one day, after I had came to this realization and I started writing things down. I went to Costco the next day or whatever. And I just remember like my face, my eyes, the way my eyes felt. And I don't know if you follow Tyra Banks, but she coined this term called smizing,
I know
where your
exactly.
eyes are smiling. And I felt like my eyes were smiling. I felt like there was a twinkle in my eye. And I remember taking my phone and taking a selfie just because I wanted to capture that moment. And I looked a hot mess. My hair was everywhere. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to smile, but I'm just going to take a picture just to see what my eyes look like. And I remember that picture, and it's just like very vivid in my memory of my eyes doing the smizing. I could see the glistening in my eyes. And so I just, keep that picture as a memory of the period where I decided to answer my call. And I haven't turned back since. I'm on a roll here in laying out the work that God wants me to do while I'm here on this earth.
I mean, the fact that you experience that, I'm sure that that's your goal to help your clients experience that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm constantly asking them, what are you curious about? What is constantly showing up for you? Sometimes I give the analogy of what's that thing that's tapping you on the shoulder because that was my experience. And so they'll start thinking like, actually, I wanted to, be a writer. And they'll start talking and start
Wow.
exploring and you could hear them saying, "Oh, no one's ever asked me that like that before." And it's like a revelation for them and they start their journeys.
Oh,
Um,
that must light you up.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
That's I kind of like that energy that you're talking about. I think that comes when you begin to walk in your purpose because you're being fueled by the Holy Spirit. It's
Absolutely.
not something that you have to contrive or create. It's just there.
Mhm.
Like you don't get up every day going, "Oh man." It's like you getting up every day like, "Okay, here we go. Let's how can we impact lives?" And so,
Yeah.
that it's a gift that you were given and you're just giving it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes we know that our purpose is not about us. It's
Oh,
about
yeah.
serving other people. It's about other people. Um, so I have to remember that often. I get so excited about being able to do work in leadership, but then I have to remember it's not about me. It's about other people.
But
God
if
gave
you
me
hadn't
this
have
gift to give to
experienced
others.
that,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know the power of it, but because you had the experience, that's
Hmm.
why I think, like, what you experienced, what you're doing is so amazing because you had this experience. And
Hmm.
so from that, now you can go out and you can, like, transfer that into people and work to help them get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I even believe in it because I experienced it. So that makes me more committed or convicted to do the work. Um, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing. So, what do you have going on right now? Tell anybody that's listening how they can find you, how they can work with you. Tell them all the stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So I am have some open spots for coaching. So if you're interested in life coaching, leadership coaching, career coaching, any of those, I'm certainly equipped to handle any topic that you'd like to speak about. So you could reach me my website. It's ijamawogu.com. I'm not sure if I should spell it out
I'll put it
or if
all in
it's
the show notes.
okay. Great. Yeah, you could get a lot of information on my website, free downloads and free resources for you to access. That will help you get clear on your goals, right? And you could catch me on social media. My handle is Ijama Leads. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You could catch me there. And I have a book coming out for pre-order in November. It's called Capable Beyond Measure. So it's a book for folks who are looking to move past fear and self-doubt, aka the imposter syndrome, to move forward towards achieving their wildest dreams. So I'm excited to release that book very soon. Work very hard on it. I believe in it so much. Every time I read it, I want to run around and give a shout, right? Because I
Awesome.
think the content is pretty transformative. So that's what I have going on.
Is
Yeah,
that book going to be on Amazon?
it is. It'll be on
Is it
Amazon
pre-order right
September.
now on Amazon?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So we're having this conversation. What month is this? September. So in November, late November, it'll be available for pre-order, and then um, it'll be launched. If that's the right wording, in late January.
That's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's a big
Yeah.
accomplishment.
Yeah. And really quickly, out of curiosity, because I'm so curious, what's been your favorite leadership book so far that you're taking a lot from?
Oh, that is a nearly impossible question for me to answer. I will tell you, I'm reading one right now by one of my favorite authors, Ken Blanchard.
Yeah.
And this one is Lead Like Jesus. But
Mhm.
I'm also reading Born for Significance. I
Mhm.
love The Hope Quotient, one of my favorite ones by Bill
Mm.
Johnston. I
Mhm.
have so many. Um, and I mean, obviously, of course, the Bible. I mean, like
Yes.
literally taking so many things out of the Bible that I mean, if we did this, if we dissected the Bible, if we were writing a book and we had, let's say, 5 topics specifically, like under the heading of leadership, we're going to train these things. We could dissect pieces of the Bible and we could put together the most profound leadership book that's ever been written. It would be transformative from the heart leadership. There's so much in the Bible
All
specifically
there.
about how to lead.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Wow.
but I mean, those are my favorites today. But like, if I walked over to my little library over there, I have tons of books on leadership. Um, and my favorite ones are there was one called I think it's called Called to Lead by John
Mhm.
MacArthur. I gave it
Mhm.
away to somebody, which is like a big no-no. I'm a book hoarder, so now I just buy them for them on Amazon. I need to reorder it. That was one of my favorites. That was one
Mm.
of my favorites, and it was a little bit of a slower read because it's very intellectually written.
Mm.
Some are like written in the way we talk. My book, I wrote the way I talk, so it's super easy to read. But some
Right.
are written very intellectually, and so
Yeah.
you have to go a little bit slower. But
Yeah.
it was packed full of just
Mm.
good. I need to reorder it. Matter of fact, it's in my cart. It's been in my cart for
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah. But you don't do audiobooks or Kindle, or you
I
have to have a
don't.
physical copy. Yeah.
I don't. And it's funny that I podcast because I don't like, I like podcasts, but I don't like audiobooks. I've tried it 100 times, but I'm like I said, I'm a book hoarder. I like to feel the
Yeah.
pages.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I had time. I would prefer to read, but you know, I try to do the audiobooks because I'm always on the go.
And it is a great way. I just have found
Mhm.
for me, I don't know why. Maybe it's again like the cadence or something, people doing it, but I think I retain better when I read,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so
Mm.
it's a whole different experience for me reading versus audio. And you know what's funny? People say, "Oh, you must like mark up your books." I
I was
never do that.
I was gonna ask you that. So you don't? What?
Never. I'm weird. I'm going to admit that I'm really, really weird. I treat my books like they're little trophies, and like I don't ever write in them.
Do
I'm
you
like,
feel like the inclination? Do you want to, but you're like, no, I'm not
yeah,
gonna mess up.
sometimes.
Okay, you just
And
want to
I was
take notes
reading
on the
some.
side.
Oh, let me tell you this book that I just finished. Is it over here? Oh shoot. Let me see if it's in this stack.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was by oh, darn it, I can't think of it. There was so much in that book, and it wasn't even about leadership. And I was like, oh, I need to highlight that. And if I ever do anything, I do it with a pencil so I can erase it.
Yeah, I
I
hear
know.
you.
I'm weird.
It's all
It's all
good.
right. We all have our weird things.
We sure
But it
do.
was a Sean Bowles. The book was by Sean Bowles.
Sean
Um,
Bowles.
and it was just about he has a prophetic ministry, but
Mhm.
he had some really awesome stuff in there that I was like, that's all leadership right there. So
Wow. Yeah,
you get it from everywhere.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you on the
Likewise.
podcast and share what you're doing with other people. But I'm also just so grateful for what you're doing in the world because I've said it like 5 times. It's holy work. It's needed in the world right now more than anything. I'm so glad you listened to the call, to the little tapping on your shoulder. And I know that God has absolutely remarkable things in store for you and your impact on the world.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the work you do with Girl Power Alliance. We had our conversation, so totally love the title. So powerful to me for so many reasons. So thank you for your work.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm sure hey, at some point, we're going to be doing some leadership conference together. I know it.
I hear that. Oh, yes, I accept that.
Me too. I'm excited about it. Well, thank you. You have a phenomenal day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
You do the same. Thank you.